What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why do they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes.
Welcome back to Shock and Awe. As always, I'm Lindsay. This week, welcome to the Dystopia, but in the Naughties. It is beginning of a new century, and it's gonna get edgy, because we are doing Mike Judge's Idiocracy, and Darren Lynn Bozeman's Repo, the genetic opera. And here with me to discuss this over a cup of what podcasters crave, it is Action Addicts Scott Wiley. Hello.
Hi. I've never been what people crave before. I like this feeling.
I know it's very unusual, but I like it. Thank you so much for coming on. Going, as I said, a fascinating conversation, especially because I had never seen Repo and you'd never seen Idiocracy, so I can say it when I'm not looking at the word. But it's so just looking at the word, going, this word makes no sense. Yeah, it's sort of fascinating and kind of looking back on a very particular, the early noughties, which I think is people getting really nostalgic for, and I'm like going, really? But no, thank you so much for coming on, because how have you been? And Action Addict seems to be coming back with a force at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to come on. I think I messaged you a while back that basically said I am so terrible at trying to find like pairs of movies to talk about, and I have enough trouble trying to pick a singular film, never mind two, and then that's sort of how this came about. And as far as how I'm very up and down, but for the benefit of the fact that we're on a podcast, yeah, I'm doing great, Linz. Thanks for asking.
No, I know that feeling. I know that feeling well. It's like every other day, I'm like, and then I get to podcast, it makes me happy.
And as far as the show itself, yes, it has. I've tried really hard, and I sort of slipped recently because I got ill, but we've basically been able to put out an episode every week this year for the first time in forever, and that is the intention of continuing that. We've also had a few guests on. I've got a lot more contacts, I think is the way of saying it now, with a few companies that actually talk to me, which means that I don't want to become a show or a website that only covers new stuff. But I also like the opportunity to cover stuff because ultimately it gets people, more attention. So then people will see that I had Isaac Florentine and Johnny Young Bosch to talk about Hellfire.
But we're here to talk some very low-grade CGI, trying to make an inventive movie on a low budget in the noughties, because the curtains are opening, and we're watching. Scott, what is going to be your trailer for that movie?
Children of Men.
Yes!
I'm sorry about the theatrics. Police have been a pain lately.
I haven't seen you for nearly 20 years.
Need your help. Not for me, a girl. Need to get her to the coast, past security checkpoints. It's hard for me to look at you. He had your eyes.
So why did you come to me?
I trust you.
Show him.
Now you know what's at stake.
We have to meet the boat.
What is this boat?
The Human Project have sent a boat.
The Human Project?
It's the greatest minds in the world working for a new society.
I thought I'd stick with the theme of 2000s dystopia, little bit of sci-fi, And spoiler alert, that's not going to change for the next trailer either.
No, nor should it. This, every time I watch it, I forget how good this movie is. Like, I have an idea of what I think it is, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, wait, this might be a masterpiece.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I had no clue what I was getting in for. It was literally, I didn't see it in the cinema. I don't think I even remember it being advertised. It was a random DVD that my stepdad bought, and occasionally mum would actually watch films, which was very rare. But he was like, "Oh, I saw this at supermarket and thought we'd give it a go." So we put it on one evening, and it was like, "What the hell are we watching?" In a good way. I was like, "I don't know what to make of this." And by the time it finished, I was like, "I don't think I'd have watched that if you know, it hadn't just been a case of I've got this random film." But I'm really glad I did, and it's become one of my favorites ever since.
Yeah, I think I caught it on TV. It took me years to actually watch the beginning of it. So I think it was when I forget her name. It's been a few years since I've seen it. Pregnant lady, because this is a movie about how the population's just stopped and what's going to happen if no one can have children. Yeah, when she's introduced, and then you just get sucked into it because like you're suddenly going, oh wait, that would be a catastrophe. Wait, this is oh gosh. So yeah, the way it unfolds is really, really smart, and the violence in the set pieces is just no, that is a really, really good choice.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm really not gonna go for well, I don't know. I decided to go for 2000s comedy. I'm gonna go Team America, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, 2004.
And just what does this have to do with me?
Last week in Paris, we caught 4 terrorists with a weapon of mass destruction. We have to find out who sold it to them. Our only hope is to have somebody act like a terrorist. We need an actor. And they say you're the best.
I've got 5 terrorists going southeast on Bakalakadaka Street. Soon every country will be in complete chaos.
To save the world from falling apart.
And so you see, the new world is inevitable.
Oh, that's such a good pick too.
A movie I knew exactly what I was
film.
getting into because I knew what South Park was. I had seen Orgasmo, and I think I had seen South Park longer and uncut. So I think I would exactly knew. The whole puppets thing did throw me when I first saw it. I was like, oh, this whole thing is puppets.
That's actually the reason I wanted to watch it. So when Team America came out, I was not a big South Park guy, and this is quite common for me with a lot of Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. My whole family, well, most of my family were basically like programming me to not like that type of comedy, and so I didn't really get much exposure to it. And Team America is kind of what cracked that because I grew up watching Thunderbirds and all the Jerry Anderson stuff.
Yes.
And of course, I could tell immediately that that's what they were parodying. And obviously, the subject matter was very prevalent at the time. And so it was
bad intelligence.
It was all of my friends were quoting that movie like pretty much the day it came out. So I was like, okay, I'm watching this. And it became a staple of everybody I knew had seen it, like at school. Didn't matter if you were a student or a teacher, like everybody saw it. It was just nuts.
Yeah, I think this is the movie that taught me about North Korea. I don't think I knew much about it until Team America made Kim Jong-un the bad guy. So I was like, oh, what is going on in North Korea?
Yes, it's also so many people have said, oh, it was so good. Why didn't we ever get a sequel? And I think Trey and Matt basically said, if we ever have to work with puppets again, the only thing we're going to do is set fire to them, because they absolutely hated it. They were like, this was a mistake, why did we do this? And I love hearing the behind the scenes stories of how much they were like practically vandalizing the puppets because they just couldn't get them to do anything that they wanted.
And then you realize how some of those scenes, especially the sex scene, is kind of a miracle. The way they have to kind of get them into the exact position and still move them. It's it'd be like making a Wallace and Gromit stop motion. You'd just be like there for years. I think those two movies really set the scene for Idiocracy going in, a Mike Judge movie who's also a blistering satirist. Now, this was the first time you had seen this movie. Your first impressions.
However, if successful, we believe humans can be stored indefinitely.
However, the trial run was prone to human error.
See you in a year.
And Joe slept slightly longer than expected. Half a millennium, to be exact. From Mike Judge, creator of Office Space and Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my God!
If you were the smartest person in the world...
This was in your mouth. This one goes in your butt. Hang on a second. This one goes in your mouth.
And we're stuck with the dumbest people in history.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2? What would you do?
Excuse me, I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison.
You're in the wrong line.
I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison.
Again, as I said to you off air, I thought I had seen this movie before, so I suspect I saw a lot of trailers and marketing material because I kind of feel like I knew what I was getting into. It was a bit different than I expected, and I think my first impression watching it, quite literally 20 years on, is that I really like the theme, the satire, and the general idea of it, but it is extremely early 2000s.
Yes.
To a point that, like, I normally wouldn't find that a negative because, like you, I was around in the 2000s, and I remember it, and I was sort of sat there going, well, it wasn't, like, quite this bad, and then I was, like, thinking about it earlier, it's like,
yeah,
it was.
No. No, I was sort of watching it. I knew I'd watched it like decades ago, and I thought, no, I can't remember. It's like Bruno or whatever it's called. It has, electrolytes, and it's kind of that's the stupidity, and you're sort of watching it. I really do like what the satire is doing, and then you're watching it, and certain words is just flung around with like impunity, and you're just going, it wasn't that, and you're like, no, it was that bad.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
like,
there's.
I like, this is one of those things where there's no good way to say this, but it's like, if you were especially a kid or a teenager in that era, those words were like interchangeable for basically every word that you wanted to say. You just said these words instead.
Yeah, it was kind of horrific. Like, there's this movie, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, and the whole thing is they go back to 2008. And the way one of the characters figures out he's in 2008 is that they go and see a sneak preview, because I think they go see The Hangover, and everyone's laughing at a certain joke Bradley Cooper was throwing out at the beginning. And he figures out it's 2008 because everyone is laughing at it, and he's the only one not. And you're like, oh yeah, they were just slurs we just threw out. And it was kind of, especially like, it started at the beginning, I'm like, okay, yeah, it'll be 1 or 2, and then it just, every scene, I'm like, oh, we're still doing it. We're still doing it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not a shame because it's not the movie's fault. It was made at a time when that was acceptable, for better or for worse. But it does make it hard to sort of point to and go, look how well it kind of has predicted some things, because you have to like get past that barrier to entry, which I don't think some people are not going to be able to do.
This is true, because I think it is a smart satire, because essentially is the most, well, they say the most average guy played by Luke Wilson is suddenly in a army science experiments a la Futurama and wakes up about 5,000 years in the future when everyone is way dumber. The corporations have taken over, and he's got to figure out a way to try and get home or somehow lead the country. One of the two will work.
Yeah, I agree. And Futurama is actually what came to mind when I was watching it. Is like, It does feel very much like somebody watched Futurama. Like, the guy gets frozen in a pod, wakes up in the future, and everything's different. And he gets tattooed with ID, and that similar thing happens to Fry in Futurama. So it's just like, yeah, there's definitely some some. I don't want to say they were stolen from Futurama, but there are some similar themes.
Yes, I was actually wondering which came first, but I think Futurama did actually come first. And
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Futurama started in like 1999.
yeah, which would make sense because this is 2006.
Yeah.
But I think I think this does kind of tie in with Repo, even though Repo is much more constructed and doesn't rely on certain words to make a joke. But I think it was a time when everyone wanted to be super edgy and super kind of like insult comics were really, really huge. It was kind of that era. It was just sort of fascinating to go,
shock factor was
shock factor. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it was all about the shock factor. And this one is no different, even though you're looking at this going, yeah, pretty much everyone in this movie is still working. Everyone, you recognize everyone, even though this is a very low budget movie. Somehow Mike Judge licensed a whole bunch of brands and then just started mocking them like really, really hard. It's kind of like Josie and the Pussycats in that way.
Yeah, and it's like, I had no idea that Terry Crews was going to show up in this as the president of the United States, which is hilarious with his long blonde hair. And like you say, there's this, everybody in this has pretty much gone on to do stuff. And there's a lot of people that maybe you look at and think, oh, wow, they were in this. But it's like the cast in and of itself, maybe not, it's not necessarily stacked in the same way that, you might look at today and think, oh, these are all A-listers. But for the time it came out in, there's so many people that everybody's going to watch and go, oh, wow, I know him. Oh, wow, I know her. Oh, wow. Yeah. And it's like, after a while, you kind of have to go, okay, this film clearly had a lot of reach, even though it didn't have the biggest budget.
Yes, because you can tell. I mean, the special effects are very simple, kind of rudimentary. It's got that early 2000s kind of blurriness, messiness to the CGI that you go, okay, I know what sort of era I'm watching. But yeah, then Luke Wilson kind of shows up, and then Maya Rudolph, and yeah, usually it's Terry Crews playing President Camacho. This kind of redneck kind of future. Did you think this movie was a little bit too interested in eugenics, or is that kind of just the whole theme of people getting dumber and voting against their interests?
I think it was. I think it was the simplest way to convey what they needed people to understand. Because obviously that I think you even said, I saw you post a thing that said that's not how genetics works. And I agree, but I think that if they tried to make it if they tried to go into the detail of the realistic aspect of how this would actually happen, people would lose interest, or it wouldn't have that same, broad appeal.
Yeah, it's sort of more, I think it was sort of more I was trying to get across was it's sort of talking about how if you're dumb and poor, you have more kids, but if you're smart, educated, and wealthy, you don't have as many kids. And it's kind of got this whole, it's like every time I watch a Emerald Fennell movie who made Saltburn, Wuthering Heights, and that kind of thing, it's like the poor are always going to come and kill the rich. And in this movie, they kind of outbred kind of that. And you just sort of, it's like this redneck, everyone's a redneck kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, but also they have kind of perpetuated something that I personally get frustrated with, which is that if you're intelligent, that must automatically mean that you're a success and you have money.
And that's a very early 2000s thing as well.
Far from the case.
Yes, and that is a very early 2000s leftover from like the 80s, which again kind of was like, hang on a minute, because you always think, oh wait, it was the 2000s, it was a different time, but it was only like 25 years ago. Like I was there. I was running around doing things. So were you. So it's kind of like, we should have known better in a lot of ways. But yeah, it does kind of push the thing. If you are dumb, you're poor. If you are intelligent, therefore you are richer. And it does kind of push that weird mentality that I think is a hangover from a couple of decades before the 2000s.
I still see it now. Like I saw it on the American Jimmy Kimmel show, where I can't remember who it was, but somebody was on there. It was his cameraman, and he'd spelled a word like how we spell it. So like color, for example, he'd put a U in.
Oh, the U, yes.
And he Jimmy drew attention to it, and his excuse was, "Oh, sorry, I just came back from England. I spent a few weeks there." And I can't quite remember exactly what Jimmy said, but he was basically like, "Oh, you were in England? Did how many people with monocles did you see walking around? Like, was it weird being surrounded by all this, great architecture and success?" And it's like, no, I don't think you really don't have a clue, do you? It's like, just because you come to England does not mean we all live in mansions and have no worries, and that we all have teams of servants at our beck and call.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I still see this really tired idea that if you're intelligent, that must mean you're an elitist, and therefore that means you have money.
Yes.
And if you're poor, that must mean that you have to work the rubbish jobs, and it's your own fault because you must be dumb. When real life is not that simple, but people desperately want it to be because it's easier. And I think in that way, that is kind of what Idiocracy is showing.
Because you do have sort of the more, Luke Wilson isn't meant to be he is the smartest once he gets there, but everyone is just so, I think I was watching it going, okay, the joke's getting a little bit old if everyone's so dumb they only know how to do three things, or they just sort of say, I like money, or, though I was giggling when Starbucks gives out hand jobs with a latte. That I was like, yeah, that's okay, that's kind of funny.
So I was the same. I loved the jokes. I don't know if I was supposed to love the jokes about the police force as much as I ended up because of how times have changed, but they were funny.
Yeah.
And but the thing I did find myself thinking is, if they're this dumb, how did they build all this stuff? Like there's that shot where he looks out the window and there are buildings that are literally being held together because someone's put like giant tape around them, which is supposed to just signify how much people have lost how to deal with these problems. But at the same time, it's like, that's pretty impressive, man. I don't know how on earth you did that, but that took some level of intelligence and skill. And then they go to I can't remember if it's when they get to Costco or if it's outside of Costco, but they go somewhere and they get on a train. And as soon as they did that, I was like, well, who's driving the train? Who's maintaining the train? Because they eventually show you that there is a heavy element of AI running the place. Like that does sort of help to explain how we're still alive. But I was also sort of thinking, like, that only explains how it's running. Someone has to keep all this stuff maintained, otherwise it would fall apart. Like, you've got these buildings that are dilapidated and just falling apart, but anything that's like mechanical is still in decent condition. And you think, well, someone out there knows how this works. I was kind of waiting for that twist, but it didn't happen. You know?
I was kind of waiting for it too. I was kind of like, oh, there's got to be someone who's kind of been running it and going, shush, we've been kind of running the society the way, like when the Brando exec came on and said, how dare you, our stock shares have like dropped and now everyone's lost their job because you started using water on the... Yeah.
That scene, and I know we're jumping around a bit, but that scene sent me, because I have seen so many people try and make this point in the last few years, and this film made it 20 years ago. You know, the CEO was literally the reason why the entire population were going into famine, because he was trying to make more money for his shareholders.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they got to a point where they were literally what was killing everyone. And when they finally fixed it, they were so like upset, and because the shareholders lost money somehow, because the shareholders lost money, the AI system automatically came in and just fired people. And I thought that was so wildly like clever because of what's happening today. We have got AI, but they're trying to put in and just basically do that. They have got, we're seeing corporate greed on that level where they will happily just get rid of people if it means a 0.1% increase on their quarterly profits. And it's played for laughs here, but like it doesn't feel like it anymore. It's like, yeah, that's the most believable bit of the whole film.
No, it is. And also the Brando realizing that water was cutting into their profit just bought like the American, what is it? I can't Too many acronyms.
FDA,
FDA.
FDA, and FCC, I think, or FCAA,
Yeah.
which is hilarious because that is also kind of happening.
So I was like, well, yes, now this is just a documentary, but yeah, that is the most sort of believable that they've actually got to the point where they're actually causing their own famine. And it's kind of this kind of brutal cycle of just corporate greed, kind of not fixing things, kind of, and just and people who are poor are being blamed for their poor. Like, I think it's the Carl's Jr. like a food dispenser, and it's like, sorry, you have no money. Please wait here while we get like a police officer to arrest you. You are a terrible mother. Like, it's kind of like, again, is kind of.
Well, it did it after she hit the machine because
Yeah.
she paid for fries and it didn't give her any. And when she hit the machine, it then said, you know, you're vandalizing, police have been called. And then when she's like hurling abuse at it, that's when it turns around and says, yeah, your children are starving. That's your fault. You're a terrible mother. Social services have been called. Your children will be gone before you make it to the police station. And you're just like, that's exactly what an AI would think to do. Like, that's an algorithm's response. And it's like, it's kind of scary because like there are people who are like, oh yeah, we should have AI making these decisions. And it's like, no, we shouldn't.
No, I didn't actually think about the AI angle actually out of all of this, but you're right. The whole thing is built on this predetermined system. When Luke also goes to the hospital because he's like, so those drugs they gave me must have like really screwed me up because I don't know what's going on or where I am. And then it's just like, well, you have to pay now. He's like, oh, I didn't have any money. Like, well, now you're going to be arrested. So it's kind of even, I mean, it's not like America hasn't been on this track for absolutely decades and decades and decades. It's just whenever we get to watch something like that, you're always at a place where you're like going, oh, yeah, this is just what's happening now in America. And it's kind of how it's trying to, as corporations get bigger and bigger, it's kind of like going, yeah, let's just do this. This will be great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where there are certain elements in society that I would not struggle to believe would be like, yeah, why wouldn't putting energy drinks on plants make them grow better?
It's got electrolytes.
It's got what plants crave.
Yes. And then the cows drinking it. It's like, that's what animals crave.
Yeah, exactly. It is literally just marketing to people that don't know any better and don't want to know any better. And then they just changed the branding. And it's like, as time's gone on, it's just become the way it is. That bit reminded me of Demolition Man, where Sandra Bullock and her partner are like singing, but they only sing like advertisement jingles. And it's like, what? And it had a very similar feel to that, you know?
Or even in different Demolition Man, when the States, the original is Taco Bell won the fast food wars, but everywhere else they had to like suddenly do a thing of go Pizza Hut won the fast food wars. So you'd see Sandra Bullock saying taco, but then you'd hear her saying Pizza Hut. Yeah, I remember that as a kid watching a Blu-ray, and then all of a sudden it was like Taco Bell. What? No, it was Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut won the fast food wars.
Yeah, I did as well. The first time I watched it as a kid, obviously it was pizza, or I think it was Pizza Hut. It might have been something else.
Something like Pizza Hut. Yeah.
No. They did. I think they did multiple versions depending on where the film released. And then when it actually came out on like Blu-ray, like you say, they didn't bother with that. They just left it the original. And I was sat there like, I'm sure it wasn't Taco Bell, but okay. And then later on, I was like, that makes more sense.
Makes a lot more sense because they are sitting down and they're eating tacos. They're not actually eating pizzas or whatever fast food thing. Yeah.
God, that would be a trick, wouldn't it? Go in and digitally edit the food they're eating.
That would be actually like, hang on a minute, I swore they were eating a pizza. But I mean, the way movies that means there has been two kind of ways that movies have always like used brands. One is just straight up, they were paid to do it. So the most honest thing I can think is Michael Bay, one of the Transformers movie when they were in China. And it just got to the point where they would just like turn into the camera holding a coat going, huh?
Sorry, I just want to throw in my own example of that level of ridiculous advertisements. I don't know if you remember the 2017 Power Rangers movie.
I do, yes.
And how Dunkin' Donuts was
That's
like,
right.
sorry, not Dunkin' Donuts, not Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, I thought
It was
Dunkin'.
Krispy Kreme.
It was a
No, it's
donut
Krispy
place.
Kreme.
Yes.
Because Rita is literally walking through the city screaming, "Where is the Krispy Kreme? Krispy Kreme! Krispy Kreme!" And like the entire movie turns out that the MacGuffin of that film is buried underneath the Krispy Kreme donut store. So the whole third act, that words get says like dozens of times. Like that is the most egregious marketing I've ever seen in a movie.
I was just like going, what? Is that what the finale's at a friggin' donut? Okay, so I see what you guys are doing. Or you do it like in a more satirical way where you somehow get away with it. Like I mentioned, Josie and the Pussycats, though apparently they never paid for they never let the people pay them for the advertisement because they just said, no, you don't have to pay us, you do it because it's gonna maybe not look that great. It's a constant kind of just like, okay, this is just excessive. Or this movie where they are using a lot of brands and it is really making the point of kind of this is what happens when you don't have a regulated society. These take over and everything's just gone to absolute crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's a strange. I do like a lot of the aspects of the movie, but some of it I'm just like going, okay, I think you use the easy joke about how if you are smart, you obviously become richer and more intelligent. It kind of feels like it's shitting on poor people. I don't love the constant slurs. Like it was going to the point where it was felt like I thought, oh, was he overusing it to make a point? No, that's just how they've decided these people talk, and that's fine. It was just part of the tone of what 2006 was.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, unfortunately, there was people that used those slurs for pretty much anything. Like, unfortunately, especially in like the early 2000s, I don't think it was hard to say that people would likely know somebody that acted like a lot of the guys do in this film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember being a bit like, what? When they were all like refusing to listen to him. And that made sense. And then even the narrator
started using it. That's when I was like, uh-oh, okay.
Yeah. They were like, oh, this is the reason. And I was like, oh, okay. I hadn't forgot, but it's been a while since I was reminded just how much like anti-intelligence some people are, and that they have to make these sort of judgments and slurs to sort of basically discredit someone with intelligence. I mean, unfortunately, there are other shows and films that have made the same point that, you know, there is this big anti-intelligence feeling in a lot of cultures, and it did kind of happen in several places around the world where it seemed like a big movement of people just went for somebody that, you know, well, he doesn't use words that have more than 2 syllables, so I'm going to vote for him because I understand him. He's like me.
Yeah, and that ended up being one of the greatest. Well, it happened twice, and it's like the greatest con of like the 21st century because he's doesn't use that, but it's kind of like he obviously looks down on the people who voted for him. So, but
yeah, to be fair, I wasn't thinking of anyone in particular. It seems to have happened in a lot of countries around the world where this feeling has taken root, and it's just it's just a really weird thing where it's like you can't win because the goal is supposed to be you want to get more intelligent and have more knowledge and better yourself. But if you do that, lots of people will hate you for it and discredit you as hard as they can in the process. And it's a very weird way to look at to have the intelligence. It's like, no, we got to belittle it because he thinks he's better than me. And that kind of says more about you than it does the other person, you know?
Well, I think it goes back to the whole idea if you're of intelligence, you're wealth and you will be successful. And if you are dumb, you're poor, and to be poor is your own fault. When it's never worked like that. And it's kind of got this weird class and status thing. So it is kind of like well, that person obviously worked really hard to get where they are, but then you're not looking at the factors of who helped them and what different circumstances they had and how they actually managed to get where they were. And then, or what kind of circumstances and help they didn't have, or where they slipped through the cracks for them to not become successful. Because I think they sort of say technology kind of makes everything more democratized and it makes everything on a much more level playing field, but it doesn't, because humans still run it and we still have the same prejudices we had that kind of go into the technology, like with the Carl's Jr. bit, like with all that, with the whole energy drink thing.
There's a Michael Caine story that he said that I think actually sort of demonstrates this point as well in society, where, he was part of the movement in the 60s in the UK, especially, where we had this big sort of punk rock revolution and hippie movements. Yep. And as he said, we basically got rid of class systems, and in terms of having this classism as part of our society. It's still there, obviously, but it's nowhere near as prevalent, where, there's servants and lords and it's all like honorary titles rather than having any real prevalence. And then he said, decades later, I played Alfred in the Batman movies, and I think he said he just finished the last one, and he went to do an interview for a completely different movie, and the interviewer said, I really loved your role as Alfred. I think it's one of your best roles, and blah, 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 blah. And he said he was very, very generous with his compliments, and I said, thank you very much. And then he turned around and said, obviously for you, it must be very natural to play the help.
Oh.
Like it's so easy for you to do that because, and as Michael Caine said, it's been a very long time since I was in the army, but in that singular moment, that's the closest anyone's ever come to meeting the guy that lived through those wars.
Yeah.
Because he was basically saying, because I'm a poor London Cockney lad that, I've gone back to my roots, and if I just played, kept at my status, I'd have had much better roles. It's like what he said next, I won't repeat, but he wasn't happy.
No, I can imagine, especially because Michael Caine is considered one of the most successful British actors to ever exist, and he was a poor Cockney boy living in East London. Yikes.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just walked out of that room and gone, I do not want to see what happens next, because Michael Caine is going to murder that man.
The reason why I think that story is relevant is because the guy asking that question didn't see the issue. Like, it wasn't an attempt to embarrass him. He didn't see why that was a problem. And it's the same issues that I see where people are like, well, if we all just stayed in our place and knew our stations, we wouldn't have all these issues. It's trying to change things that causes the problems. And you see that in Idiocracy when he says, we need to use water to make plants grow. And when it doesn't immediately work, and then obviously we have all these stock problems, they immediately throw him out to the wolves. And it's like, no, it's his fault. He tried to change things. We got to, make an example of him. Everything is fine the way it is, even though it's not. That's why you asked him to fix it in the first place.
Exactly. But no, I do love that conversation of, he's like, we could try water. What, from the toilet? And he's like, well, not water from the toilet, but yeah, just, and then it's like, but it's got electrolytes. It's like, it's what plants crave, and it's got what plants crave. And it just keeps going circular. And he's just like,
well, I love the fact that he says to them, like, what are electrolytes? No one knows.
It's what plants crave. That's, they can only use the language of the branding, but that is one of the funniest scenes in there. Is just like, the president's cabinet is just kind of, although the other funny joke is when he goes into prison for the first time and he's like, okay, how do I get out of this? I don't want to be here. So he just goes to the guys. I think I'm in the wrong line. I think it was meant to like get out, and he just walks out of the prison. So they put a big rock on him. Like, they gave me a big rock, and it's like this massive rock. Look, they are problem solvers. They know how to solve a problem sometimes, because this guy will trick us into get out of prison. So we'll put him in a big rock attached to his foot.
and then have to use like a forklift to move the rock.
Yeah, that is the stuff I actually very much enjoyed. It was like, yeah, those gags were funny. Especially when he's in the car. And
yeah, like there are funny moments in the movie, and there are, like I said, I think for the time it was made, it did make a good point. It's just that, you know, it's a shame that unfortunately, because of the time it was made, some of the stuff feels very dated now, even though it's set in the future. But if you can sort of just go, yeah, that's fine, that's what it is, it's still got a very good point. The rest of it is still very kind of scarily present, you know?
yeah, it's like watching a Michael Moore direct documentary from like the early 2000s as well, which is kind of like, yes, I agree with everything you're saying, but I find you so annoying that it feels very 2000s in a way. Like everything had to be shock value, everything had to be kind of twisted and to make it more kind of twisted or edgelordy or kind of thing. So you're just watching it and you're just like, oh, now you're just trying too hard. Like you don't have to do all of this. Now we're going to get into a movie that does all of that. I'm just like, can we please have more of whatever this is? Because this is, can you try harder? Like I want all of this weird new metal experience that I didn't realize that I would like or that I wanted in my life. But it's, yeah, it's kind of like everything in the early 2000s was trying way too hard to be edgy. And it's like, you didn't have to try that hard. It's fine, guys. Like, calm down.
The funny thing is, like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I always find it so weird to go back because I don't remember anybody trying to be edgy.
No!
It just came naturally. And now you go back and you're like, whoa, what? Why? And some of the movies I still like, and it's like, okay, it is edgy, but I still like it. And then there's other movies that I've gone back to, and I'm like, this doesn't feel anything like I remember. It is how I remember, but like, were we really like this determined to just say everything that came to our heads, you know?
Yeah, because the 90s wasn't like that exactly. It was much more sanitized. It was much more kind of colorful and poppy. And yes, you did have these kind of edgier moment filmmakers and things come into it that was, say, swearing a lot or kind of changed kind of thing. But then in the 2000s, everyone's just like, oh, so we just got to swear and say, motherfuckers, I'm just going to say what's on my mind because that's, I'm just going to say what everyone else is thinking. I'm like, that phrase, I remember that phrase being around a lot. I'm like, are you though? Like, when did you mind read? But yeah, it feels like this, everyone's really trying really, really hard to like out edge each other. And yeah, it was just like, when you go back and you're like, I don't remember anyone trying that hard. But when you watch some of the stuff, you're like, I think they kind of were.
Yeah. And like you say, I think edgy humor had become such a norm that I remember making very crass jokes and they came very naturally to me because I was being influenced by what was really popular and I was deemed funny. And it was one of those things that I think about it now and it's just, was it actually funny or edgy or was it just the obvious joke? Was it the first thing that came to mind and everybody was like, oh, I can't believe you said that, you know?
I think that's what it was a lot of the time. I think it was just the first thing that came to mind and it wasn't necessarily like created and worked on or anything like that. I think it was just like word vomit and then everyone just went, oh my God. And then like, because this was when House was kind of, I think, started in the 2000s, which was about the doctor who just like insulted people like all the time. And that's what a lot of the comedy was. And it was definitely the vibe.
Yeah. Oh my God. House started in 2004, which okay. Don't do that to me, Lindsay.
I know. I just realized when that I think they're old because with Scrubs coming back, I'm like, I just feel really old now.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Idiocracy before we go on to Repo? With an exclamation point.
No. Like I say, I liked it, and I'm glad I watched it. But I think it has some very interesting points. Like even like again, I really trying to not just make direct comparisons, but I do find it funny that one of the things that they were like, you know, oh, the president was a former WWE wrestler and he was elected because of his popularity, yes! And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, the way he comes out. And when he comes out in front of Congress, it's just like, yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, when when Congress doesn't want to listen to him and he fires a flipping machine gun into the sky to make him quiet. And my first thought was, oh, I can think of someone that wishes they could do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's just some of it you're just like going, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is just happening. You ready to go on to Repo? Sorry, I have to do the exclamation point, because this movie is an exclamation point. The curtains are back opening. What is going to be your trailer for Repo, the genetic opera?
That would be. I wanted to be really impressive then and tell you the year, but I seem to have closed the tab. So that would be the 2002 film Minority Report.
Tell me exactly what it is you're looking for.
Flaws. You ever get any false positives?
We are arresting individuals who have broken no law.
But they will.
The fact that you prevent it from happening doesn't change the fact that it was going to happen.
The system can't be wrong.
You say something, Chief?
No.
You're in a lot of trouble, John. I have a warrant in my pocket that says murder. Don't run.
You don't have to chase me.
From 20th Century Fox.
He set me up. He set me up!
And DreamWorks Pictures.
Who's the victim? I've never heard of him, but I'm supposed to kill him in less than 36 hours.
He's coming here to get her.
Tom Cruise.
I need your help. If you contain information, I need to know how to get at it.
In a Steven Spielberg film.
I have to know. I have to find out what happened in my life.
You tell me, who was it set this up?
I don't know.
Ooh, I didn't think of this. Yes. I love this movie so much.
Basically, I was trying. There aren't like, you feel free to correct me, but I don't think there are many other movies like Repo out there. Even the actual like Repo Men movie isn't like anything like this because they're not musicals, for starters. But Minority Report has that same, not feeling as such, but it does have similar themes of how much control do you actually get over your own life, and what are we giving up to stay in the cool kids club? And that's a really simple way of putting it. You know, in Repo, it's more about the cosmetic surgery, but in Minority Report, it's essentially giving up control of making your own decisions to an AI. And in Repo, it's basically you're giving it up to a private corporation. Like, it's different, but it's really not.
Yeah, no, it's not very different. And though in Minority Report, it's not exactly AI. It is a drug poisoned person who can see the future. Like, yeah, there's that.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, Samantha Morton, like,
but
screaming, run!
But people, if I remember correctly, don't know that. Like, they think it's a system. So that's what I meant. Like, the average person is just trusting that this system can tell them, you know, who's going to commit crimes, when, what, why, and they just go, yep, cool, we're just going to believe you, no questions asked. You're going to commit a crime, don't care what you say, off to jail with you, you know?
Off to the halo. Like, no, I think it's a really interesting metaphor for what AI is, because it is still human created. Again, it has their foibles, and again, it is not perfect, even if you pretend, no matter how much Max von Sydow needs it to be perfect. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite Spielberg movies. I think it's so well done. It says so much. There's an anger to it. I think it's one of Tom Cruise's best movies. No, I think this is a really, really smart movie. Yeah, because this is about a society that's kind of, given itself away to make things easier in the moment without being able to have the power over what happens when those consequences come back to you. No, that is a great, great trailer. I'm trying to decide between two. Actually, no, I'm going to go for the more modern movie. I just watched it. I do love this, even though when it came out, like in 2022, I think it was, it kind of was met with a shrug, but I'm going David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future.
We've all felt that the body was empty. Empty of meaning. And we've wanted to confirm that, so that we could fill it with meaning.
The world is a much more dangerous place now that pain has all but disappeared.
Surgery is sex, isn't it?
Is it?
You know it is. Surgery is the new sex.
particular what's happening with my body. Which is why I keep cutting it up.
This is a very Cronenberg movie. It is about these people who basically surgery has become the new sex, and it is about surgery and human augmentation and human evolution as performance art. And what is the difference between a body that is trying to kill you with tumors, but then you can use it as this kind of art form? And there's a lot of ideas that Cronenberg is trying to deal with, and he's still trying to figure out the language in which to tell it. I think it's a very fascinating movie.
I can't really offer you any response there because I've not seen it, but just looked it up while you were talking, and I think I'll be changing that because that's like, oh wow, that is like very similar to Repo.
Yes. Like, I've been meaning to watch it forever. In fact, I think me and Robert DeQuera at 2022 declared it was going to be our most anticipated movie, and then neither of us saw it. But I have finally seen it, and it does have those same ideas that Repo was trying to do as well, about pushing human evolution forward, but also this kind of, in Crimes, it's more of a government kind of angle trying to maneuver it, but in Repo, it is obviously the corporation that's trying to maneuver it. And go watch it again. I think there's something really special going on in that movie. And there's a lot of slicing. Everyone's getting sliced in Crimes. Okay, so this was my first watch. I'd been meaning to watch Repo, the genetic opera, for a while. I must be brave. Because you don't get many horror musicals, and I was curious to see what this was, and I will say it did take me about 15 minutes to get into it, because I will say it is kind of an assault on the senses when you first start.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I hadn't rewatched this film for a long time. And when I watched it, and all the times I've rewatched it, it was in standard definition. So this is the first time I saw it in high definition, and my God, does it make a difference to some of these scenes? I was sat there like, oh yeah, I remember why I liked this so much, and I was like, wow, there's stuff I don't like about it, but the stuff I do like is they nail the feel of this oppressive, completely broken city and the society that has no choice but to endure it.
I mean, but it's also got this weird fairy tale element of the princess in the tower who's sneaking out at night, who's kind of being manipulated by this outside force, and her father, who was also her jailer, kind of keeping the princess in the tower, is also like if Batman would go out and take organs out of people. It's kind of he's kind of like this weird anti-superhero with like a Batman villain.
Well, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's really not. He sort of becomes that eventually, and he could have been that, but unfortunately it's
just the way it's shot, and kind of you look at it and I'm like, are they modeling this like this guy's got like the secret room in like the big house on the hill kind of thing? Just the way the aesthetics of it
behind the fireplace.
Yes,
I think that the goal is that was entirely intentional, because in another version of this story he would be the anti-hero going out and fighting Gene Co, but as the head of GeneCo even says when he directly addresses the audience at one point,
Yeah.
Nathan could have been my biggest problem or a great asset, but I was able to get to him in his one moment of weakness, and he's never figured out that I'm the reason his everything happened. And so he took what should have been the hero, the city's hero, and made him his enforcer. It's like he got rid of the only person that could actually stop him. It was masterfully done as far as villainy goes.
Exactly, because he is kind of the villain in the tower. He is kind of like the ultimate comic book villain, and he should be always on the back foot, but he was able to kind of get to this guy and go, yes, you are a masked kind of crusader, but now I own you, so therefore you go and do my bidding. When you realize it, it's too late, and you're pretty much dead by the time you kind of realize what's going on. Spoilers for Repo.
Well, the funny thing is I don't think he ever does realize.
Oh, does I thought there was a thing. Yeah.
No. So what he has more than one song where he basically is like obsessing over his daughter.
Yes.
And obviously when Rossi, who is the GeneCo CEO, is like trying to take her away from him, he quite rightly and understandably doesn't take that very well. But a lot of his darker tendencies, which is a performance we'll get into.
Oh yeah.
They're basically, they want to kill Rotti because of the damage he's caused now. No one ever finds out that Rotti is actually the one who killed Marnie, who manipulated Nathan, and did all of this messed up stuff. He literally does take it to his grave, which is what he says he'll do when he sings.
Actually, you're right, because there's already motivations to actually want to take him out, which now I'm forgetting who actually kills Rotti. Because I know Rotti shoots Nathan, and then he pleads with
Rotti
Shiloh.
dies of his
whatever
his
illness,
condition.
his condition that he has. Yeah, I only saw this like a couple of days ago. There's a lot of songs and a lot of singing that you're trying to decipher, and there's a lot of aesthetics going on in this movie. I will say it's kind of not exactly like Idiocracy, when you've kind of got this kind of hazy CGI kind of thing kind of happening, and that you can just kind of ignore it because it's usually a pile of rubbish about to fall on someone. This is kind of looks like, I know it's not the volume because they didn't have the volume in like 2008, I think, when this was. No, but it's kind of,
it was 2008.
Yeah, so but they've got that kind of thing where you can tell they're just in a studio with a green screen. Like it's all kind of these very fake backgrounds, and there's a lot going on.
Some of the backgrounds, some of the backgrounds are real, but they, if I remember correctly, like you said, they have that, everything has a sheen to it.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to tell what's the real background and what's a green screen, because they wanted everything to have this sort of ethereal look. Like you said, it is a bit of a fantasy, it is a bit of a supernatural-ish look to it, but I also think that some of that is because they wanted it to feel like a stage show come to life, because I don't know, I think that they said
I would say
was...
that. Yeah, sorry, I think they succeeded in making it look like a stage show.
Because I think they said that was part of the reason why so much of the movie it ends up being like told in comic book flashbacks rather than actual flashbacks, because they didn't want to have to build all those other sets because it was too much, and they were quite upfront about the fact that sometimes it was because they just didn't have the money. It gave it a different feeling by making the whole film feel like a living comic book.
Yeah, this movie, you can tell this has got such big ideas and it kind of wants to explode and go big. It just doesn't have the budget for it. So as soon as it started doing the comic book kind of flashbacks, I was like, oh, they can't afford to actually do that, which is fair enough. So they can get like someone coming in and it's not even dialogue. It's just literally panels and you're reading it and you're with music behind it. But yeah, I like the idea of this movie still being able to kind of feel big when they don't have the money for it. And I was kind of watching it going, is it because they had the most insane cast they could have brought together in 2008? Like, I mean, you have Anthony Head, Giles from Buffy, yes, who I always forget is a really good singer, and was like on Broadway, West End mainly, and did a whole bunch of other things. You have Paul Savino, who was an actual opera singer, so he can hit these amazing notes. You have Sarah Brightman of original Christine of Phantom of the Opera. You have Paris Hilton. You have Bill Moseley, who I don't think would have been that expensive in 2008. But I think I was just like, oh, I'm going to see Bill Moseley sing.
Well, even the main, well, I say the main character very loosely, but even Alex Vega
Yes.
as the girl, you know, she was 2 Spy Kids films deep at this point, so
She
she wouldn't have been
was.
cheap either.
No. So it's got like this insane, apparently like Paris Hilton like gave money to the production to keep it going. I think they were going to have to shut down for a while, and she was like, no, I need to have my face pulled off. Thank you very much. So she actually gave money to the production.
I'm glad, because like, yeah, well, I remember the first time I watched this, there was quite clearly, in my opinion at the time, and I've changed my opinion, Paris Hilton is the weakest point of this movie, but I've since realized that wasn't necessarily her just not being able to like sing as well as everyone else. That was by design. Like, she was playing a character that was supposed to be the one that everybody's like, we only indulge her because her dad's rich, you know?
Exactly. I mean, no one is expecting Paris Hilton to sing like Sarah Brightman, who is known to be like this amazing,
one of the best voices on the planet.
on the best voices on the planet. So it's not like, yeah, and she is meant to be kind of the Nepo baby who wants to perform but actually can't sing. It's kind of, she is very much leaning to it. And look, at the time I was very dismissive every single time I saw her pop in a movie, but I think I'm a little nostalgic for it now. Like, I'm like, oh no, you know what? Yeah, look, you weren't actually as bad as I thought you were back in the day. Like, I think you do have a presence.
I think this film was when I changed my opinions on her, not to a degree that I would say I was a fan.
Oh,
but
no.
It's like, she is basically parodying herself in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she's aware, and that self-awareness can do a lot to be like, okay, the fact that you're willing to do this, still look good while you do it, but very much acknowledge that, like, this, you know, I'm not trying to be this, but I can see why everybody else thinks that. It's like, okay, cool, I'm on board with the fact that you're literally kind of not having an issue with people seeing the side of you, and it's going to be recorded and put on a big screen for all to see, like how bad you kind of come off in this, and you're just leaning into it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like any of the 3 Rotti siblings are, you know, talented or kind of. I mean, even Bill Moseley, and I did write his name down, the third brother with the weird, who had the fake leather face on, Nikov Ogre, aren't exactly the strongest voices in the cast. They're kind of meant to be this kind of very slightly off-key. Bill Moseley yells a lot when he's singing, so it's not like, you can tell they are kind of the least talented of the cast, when everyone else is just like, I'm like, oh yeah, like, these guys can belt. Like, there's a reason. Yeah, they are, all of those guys are trained singers.
Well, I actually, like, when I watched it the first time, the best singer in the entire film, I don't think you actually mentioned then.
Oh, who do I miss?
The grave robber.
Yes.
Dunick, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
I can't believe I forgot about the grave robber. I don't know, every time he popped on, I suddenly started thinking of Sweeney Todd. Like, it's just, he had that quality about him.
Yeah, and he has such a silky smooth voice that, like, when I watched this, it was originally, it was purely because Anthony Head was in it and I liked the look of it. But as soon as the grave robber started singing, I was like, oh, you have the exact vibe that, especially at the time, I was listening to. And it was like every single one of his songs are ones that I remember, you know?
Yeah, I wish he was in the movie more, actually. Especially me, I wish he was kind of more involved, even though there's no reason why he would have been there. But to have him at the actual opera, being around, I would have loved, even though I can't think of a reason why he should actually be there, because the whole point is he's out on the street, kind of the outsider, kind of narrating what is happening.
Yeah, I do like that little acknowledgement from the daughter as well, when she sees him the second time and she's like, "You're real?" And I almost feel like that was for the audience's benefit, because it's like, is his character actually there, or is he just like a narrator for us that no one else is going to acknowledge, you know?
Exactly. Because the first scene when Shiloh and the Gravedigger meet, you don't quite know what's going on exactly. You don't know why she's at the graveyard. You don't know why she's doing it. You don't know why she's suddenly screaming about not being outside when she's been outside for like the last few minutes. Like, you don't quite, it kind of throws you into a world where you're like, hang on a minute, wait, what's going on? What's the tone? What is this? I don't kind of get. And it does, as I said, it's assault on the senses. So it takes you a bit to kind of go, oh, okay. So what is Shiloh remembering and what she isn't is kind of actually very important to the movie.
I don't know why you think it's an assault on your senses. You just see a guy take someone's body out of their grave, extract juices from them, run away from security guards, and then end up in a pile of completely naked, mutilated bodies that can't be burned because they're infected. And they're on screen, all to see, while somebody else is blaring out some metal music. Why would that be a bit of an assault?
It's just
Well, yeah, and I love his voice too, because his register can go all over the place. And it's like, as soon as he started singing, I remember just being sat there like, this isn't the song I remember the best, but I do love, it's my job to steal and rob graves. And then the line that's been sat in my head ever since, like when we were talking about Idiocracy as well, it's for every market, a submarket grows. And I remember thinking, like, these lyrics were so good when I listened to them the first time, but nearly 20 years on, oh man, do I have more appreciation for some of their meanings now than when I watched this originally. Like, there's a lot being said if you actually listen to them.
No, there's this kind of interesting, I mean, I didn't want to watch Repo Men, but I have a vague memory of it. Like the system in place when you can get a new heart that will save your life. But if you don't keep up on your repayments, then someone's going to come and literally rip it out of your body and take it back. And I do love how in Repo, the genetic opera, there is a line, I think, from the Gravedigger that's saying they made it a law that someone could come and take that organ out of you. So that's how they started we can save your life by giving you a new heart or a new kidney or a new liver.
Yeah, so the idea was basically that there were people dying because there was something that was causing organ failures on a scale of which people had never seen. Like just spontaneously. And again, I'm pretty sure because both of these films I think are based off of the same original story. I could be making this up, but I've got this vague memory that in that story, I'm pretty sure GeneCo actually created that problem so that they could sell you the solution.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I might be making that up. But in the beginning, they were just saving people, like, because obviously they didn't have the power or the resources to do what they eventually became. And once they'd established themselves as like, we're the reason people are still alive, but not everybody has the means with which to get our artificial things. So let's come up with a way that people can make payment plans. Let's get, stuff on finance. And of course, once they did that, they then pivoted heavily to, much like in real life with, how, especially at the time, people were obsessed with like cosmetic surgery and how you looked and, like everybody knew the names of America's models. It was a bit of a weird time in that regard with how superficial we can be as a species. They then were like, well, let's take that current obsession with cosmetic surgery on the outside and apply it to the inside. Like if you could get designer organs, if you could change things about yourself, the grave robber even says, like, would you? Like, would you seek genetic perfection if you could? And once they done that, they then were able to lobby Congress and the government to be like, hey, this is our property and people aren't paying. We need to be able to repossess this stuff. And obviously once that passed, it was like, dystopia future, here we go. Corporate control is now, because it's too late to change it. Once it's been passed, it's very difficult to unpass something, as people have discovered in real life.
Yes. But no, I sort of how you see it kind of worked in the movie, even the song Surgery, which is another Gravedigger song, when he's singing about Paris Hilton getting alleyway surgeries on the street to try and
Oh, the Zydrate Anatomy song.
yes, which is a great one. And or you have Sarah Brightman, who is a blind character who is given these kind of really cool new eyes so she can see, but because of that, now she's owned by Paul Savino. So, and it's something she wants to break away from, but she knows it will lead to her death because Repo will come after her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing as well. It's like somebody that has a pair of eyes could easily have them removed and they still could live blind, but they don't. Like
No.
it doesn't matter what your organ of choice is. The way in which the Repo Man or the Repo Men, but we only ever see one in this movie, will they're not careful about how they take their stuff back. It's pretty much a guarantee that if you're in debt to them, you die, and it's going to be rather horrific when you do.
Yeah, because Sarah Brightman's death is rather horrific. Like she dies on stage.
It is, but
Yeah.
ironically, nothing to do with the Repo Man.
No, that is yeah. She takes out her own eye. She's like, "Well, screw you, Rito. If you think you're going to sick the Repo Man on me, I was going to take it out." And then they drop her on an iron fence, so she's impaled. And you're just like, "Oh, okay, that was horrific." Beautifully done,
like,
but horrific.
What? So, right at the start of the movie, when you first meet Anthony Head's character, and he's trying to comfort his daughter, and then he goes downstairs and he changes back into the Repo Man, and he has that guy done up in like, well, kind of bondage gear to be fair, but he's strapped to a table, and then the next, I can't remember if it's the same guy or if it's a different guy, but the next time you see him down there, he's got a different guy, and he's singing about how it's a thankless job, and that is one of my favorite scenes, not necessarily song, because it is so morbid and so dark, but comical.
Yeah.
And it literally ends with him putting his hand inside this guy and piloting him like a puppet so that he can sing the backing to the song. I love that scene.
I was just like, oh, hello. Because, I mean, this thing is so many different tones and kind of comic moments and gore and hilarious, kind of funny things like, yeah, Anthony Head working a guy like a puppet because, like, he's just, like, throwing his arms in there because he's obviously got people that he's, like, murdering and taking organs out and that kind of thing. And then it will have this really angsty moment of Shiloh like singing about how she's so sad to be locked in a tower and her genes suck and or she's a 17 and now she's going to be a monster and that coming of age and like it's got all these weird different kind of tones but they seem to fit and I think it's because they just keep it like a stage production where because you can have different songs that kind of illustrate different things and you're able to kind of play with more tone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as well, it's like the world itself feels so broken. And I don't just mean, oh, this world sucks. It sucks in a way that Idiocracy, it doesn't even touch.
No.
Like everybody just accepts how this world is, and everybody is just praying that. I think some of them are praying that they just manage to survive, and I think some people are praying that somebody will just put them out their misery because nobody wants to live in this world.
No,
to be blunt.
Even Roddy doesn't. He's like over it, and he created it. Yeah.
And the bit that I always think is funny how they made sure to keep it in theme is after that the Zydrate Anatomy song or the surgery song, and they get the private police show up to try to bring Amber back, and the grave robber runs away into the truck, like the road sweeper or the refuge collector truck. And as it goes past, it has a song singing about the fact that we've been cleaning up the streets since 2030. And it's so cheery whilst all these people are dying. And I was like, that to me just sold how bleak it is to live here. That like, there is just nobody left that has any ability to control this madness. It has gone completely overboard and it's far too late to pull up,
Yeah, it's like the people who are watching the opera and they're kind of just accepting what they're watching. I mean, they are horrified with some moments, especially with some of the confessions that are happening on stage. Like in this public forum of like, yes, I'm trying to take away your daughter, but you know, you fucked up. And he's like, I don't care, I don't like you. That the kind of this big theatrical kind of thing. And they're just kind of watching it like it's a TV show, because I guess it's kind of is, but even though they're like this captive audience at the same time, it's like an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I find all of the characters in this very interesting to actually watch and to see people's reactions to. I mean, like I said, Anthony Head probably has the best performance for me, purely because he manages to sell the idea without it ever actually being addressed. He has a lot of issues, I think he's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
And he's basically created he's got two personalities, and he's got the father, who is kind of still Nathan, even though he struggles with that one a bit. And then when he needs to be the Repo Man, he becomes the monster. And I love how you can easily tell which one is in control because of how he changes his voice, both when he's speaking, but also when he's singing. Like, it's so easy to know which one is currently in the driver's seat.
It is an astounding performance, because I was half expecting him and Paul Sorvino to kind of coast through it a little bit. Like, they were the biggest people in the cast. They didn't necessarily have to work as hard, but Anthony Head is just giving it everything. Like, you're right, there are two different ways he's singing. You've got Paul just like really singing opera because he was a trained opera singer, and it's kind of incredible that they're giving, I guess in like 2008, the time this movie was kind of made, horror was kind of very much the red-headed stepchild, because I mean, even the director Darren had directed multiple Saw movies, and I was going to choose like a Resident Evil movie, Apocalypse, because they sort of had the weird same aesthetic, and that movie is bonkers. But it was kind of like torture porn. Let's go again. Let's go really gnarly. Let's see if we can shock people. Let's see if we can go for really awful violence to get like an elicit a reaction. And this movie's definitely doing that. But then you have Anthony Head like just with that gorgeous voice of his, just like belting out these kind of very emotional moments that you wouldn't expect from a movie like this, even if it was a musical.
Yeah, and you're right about Paul Sorvino. I know the song that I always think of with him is one of the big numbers at the end where they're all singing about at the opera tonight, and everyone in the cast has some dialogue in the verses, and there's a bit where he's basically duetting with his sons, and there are times when you do wonder, it's like his sons just get completely drowned out. Like, they might as well have just been lip syncing at that point, because they have no hope of matching him whatsoever. I love that song in particular just because of how much it escalates everything. But hearing him whenever he duets with any of the other people in the musical, it's like his ability to control his voice is just not matched by really anyone other than Sarah Brightman, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, when Sarah Brightman, and she does go off a couple of times, you're like, yes, Dad. I was like, why do I know you? And then she started singing. I went, that's Christine. Like, I've never seen like I've never got the chance to see her on stage performing as in the Phantom, but you know that voice, you know her singing, and when she goes for that real bout, I don't think she probably could go for those real high notes anymore. Like, that would probably kill her, but it's still impressive. And yeah, the control they have of their voice. And I keep forgetting how good Anthony Head is as a singer. Like, he did, I think, yeah, he was in Chess, because he when his brother couldn't do it, who was the original, like, they'd just get his brother in. I'm like, oh, that's a hell of a family.
Yeah, and he was in a band for a long period of time. Because he does have some like songs, but they're so hard to find. Or at least the last time I looked, they were ridiculously hard to find. Like, you had to still get like the old vinyl of them. They're that hard to find.
Oh my God, that is hard to find. And most people best know him as Giles, who would sing occasionally, but it was always, except for like the musical episode, it was always always tinged with a joke.
Yes. Yeah, it was I think if I remember correctly, there was the two times before the musical episode was when they're in the dream and he's like, I've got to warn Buffy.
Yeah.
And then the following season they gave him like a full acoustic guitar moment of Behind Blue Eyes, and that was like everyone was like, wow, that was really good. Like even the cast was just stood there like, wow, Giles, you can sing. Where's this been hiding?
No, this is, yeah, it's just a really inventive movie that I think is so surprising that it got made. I mean, I think it was meant to be, it's the middle of a trilogy. Like he had this whole big family saga thing planned. So you sort of got the first part in the flashbacks, and I guess the next thing would be Shiloh just kind of figuring her stuff out now, that fact that her father, she's free from her father who was poisoning her. So she would stay inside.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, that's really terrible. But I do almost wonder sometimes when she actually goes out into the world, is she just gonna be like, I get it now.
She stayed inside. Yes.
Yeah, I don't really like it out here.
Yeah. I know I sang the whole movie about me wanting to go outside and how great it would be, but now I'm here, I'm like going, it's not that great. Could go back inside.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite conversations in the movie is when Anthony has that guy hanging upside down in the street, and he's trying to take out, I think it's his spine, which is a bit of a weird one, and they're talking to each other on the like wrist communicators, and she's not at home, and she thinks he's like being a doctor, and they're trying to convince each other not to like come back and check on them, because it's like, I'm definitely not dismembering someone, and that's good because I'm definitely not out and about in the city.
Yes. What's that
we're
noise?
Fine. We're both fine.
Yeah, we're both fine. Yes, we're both doing exactly what we should be doing. No, this is such a fascinating double, just kind of looking at kind of this kind of big genre filmmaking. Like I thought it was going to be like this really fun, like, oh, one's a musical, one's a comedy, and then it ended up being this really big kind of late stage capitalism, early noughties kind of making movies on a budget and kind of reflecting the time. So this has been an amazing double.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, I've seen people review this over the years, and I think people have warmed up to it, and I don't think a lot of people really knew what to make of it when it first came out.
Oh no.
But I think now people have really sort of, it's become one of those cult classic movies that people will say, you know, oh, this is, you know, it has its rough spots, but it's really good overall. And like you said, the commentary on capitalism is clear as day. The corruption, the obsession with greed, the security, the fact that everybody in the movie that works for GeneCo looks like they walked off of a catwalk. You know, he only seems to employ ridiculously attractive women who all have the skill set to do whatever he needs.
Yes, or just carry like the one with the machine guns just walking around, but his bodyguards, or just like model-esque women.
Yeah, and they clearly are not just regular people, because they have a deliberate look about them that makes it seem like they're almost like dead. Like they're so pale, they have the blue lips, but yeah, you don't mess with them. They always have those shotguns, machine guns, like they're always armed to the teeth, but they also have those 3 or 4 like nurse outfitted looking girls as well. And when you get that scene where they're trying to convince Nathan to kill Meg, and he's singing about he remembers who he is, that to me, it shows you the personalities like underneath of everyone in the scene, because Rottie is very aware of how much of a monster he's turned Nathan into, and he just needs to point him in the right direction every now and then. But he'll do it eventually. Whereas his sons are like both trying to like intimidate and control him, but they're also like terrified of him.
Yeah.
And they desperately want to be like their dad, but they can't do it. And I love the fact that you've got the guy who is known for like stabbing and killing people, and the guy who literally steals people's faces and wears them as a mask.
Yes.
Long before the Joker did it, I might add.
Yes, very much so.
Because he looks exactly like how the Joker would look in some later iterations.
Oh, he does, yes.
When Nathan finally goes full like dark side, and he carves that guy to bits and pulls him out, you see both of the brothers like, oh my god, like this guy's they literally turn away because they're like afraid of him, and like almost like this is too much even for them. And it's like, aha, see, for you guys, it's an act. You're trying so hard to be like your dad, whereas their dad is just sat up with a grin on his face, like, yes, yes, mutilate this person, my child. You're exactly what I need. And it's such a good scene, but it's very easy to miss, you know?
It is. There's one point I expected him to turn around to his children and go, "You are very unserious people." Like it's got that Succession, even though this was way before Succession, but it's got that kind of feeling of who is going to inherit, who is going to, can the children ever live up to what their father had built because he is such a monster, and these kids are just play acting, being monsters.
Yeah, and I think as well, I love the scene where he says to his daughter, like, I gave you everything that I never had. And I think he's realized now that that is what has created them. Like, they are the way they are because of he was so adamant to like give them everything. Well, funnily enough, when you give people everything, all they know how to do is take. They don't have any ability to do anything else. They're just like, well, come on, Dad, fix the things that I messed up. And he's like, fine. And then as soon as he does, her like any kind of affection or worry about him goes out the door, and she's just like, thank you, and then leaves. Wow.
Yeah, the fact that he wants to give it to the child he never had. Like,
yes,
Shiloh's not his child, but because he was in love with her mother, he kind of goes, well, this could be my child, and she's not an asshole like my own children, so I can just give the whole thing to her. And she's like, no.
Yeah. But again, he couldn't even do that because he's like, I'll only give it to you if you kill your dad, because your dad also is like someone who's upset me.
Yes.
And it's like he wouldn't just give it to her to piss off his kids or to give this kid who's lived a horrid life some power. She still had to be essentially a victim of his before he would give her anything, you know?
Yes. And the thing of her, she's like going, no, I don't like this. I don't want to have anything to do with any of you. Like, I need to leave. Which I like where it ends, the fact that everything's just a mess.
Well, I think the bit in the movie that I never really quite got until this rewatch, or if I did, I'd sort of forgotten, is even though it never comes out how badly Rottie like manipulated and controlled Nathan, and how much he actually, caused a lot of the grief in both of their lives, she's still smart enough to go, I get it now. Regardless of if my dad did kill my mom, you've used her death to control my dad, and now you want to use his death to control me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I think that sort of that choice to say, I'm walking away, it can feel like a bit anticlimactic, but I think that's the point, is she doesn't have to get involved with all of this. She can go and live her life. Like, she literally exits the stage at that moment, and I think that's done really well.
No, it is. She has a choice, and she realized she can break the cycle, and she doesn't actually have to do it. She can say no, and Roddy's obviously not a person who has that very often. He can manipulate. He can kind of get people to do what he wants, and to have her just go, nope, bye, is actually I do like that ending a lot.
Yeah, it's just a shame that about 20 seconds later they kind of undo it a bit.
Yeah, they do.
Because as soon as the credits start rolling, we then cut to a scene where Amber has come back with a new face, and she now seems to have both of her brothers under control, and she's basically decided that she's going to be in charge, and she's now like super serious. And they also hint throughout the film that one of her brothers has some not great thoughts about his sister and their possible relationship. So, there's that as well.
Yes. No, it's pulling a lot of threads that it doesn't always know where to tie, but I think it kind of makes it an interesting mess instead of just a mess.
Yeah, and I think overall, while there is a mess, and there are things I wish it did differently, like seeing Anthony Head fight off the guards is great, but the big sort of sequence where he storms the castle turns back into a comic book, and I was like, really? Come on. It's Anthony Head, man. I want to see that, not just like hear it. So, it's like I said, it's not perfect, but overall I think it's cohesive enough that you can still get the message, and as long as, like you say, you can deal with an assault on your senses, it's a good time.
It is actually a really good time. This is the movie out of the two I'd highly recommend, because even if you're like, oh my God, what is this? I'm hearing this is a metal or kind of new metal or kind of angsty kind of thing. And I don't quite know oh, wait, no, this is what it is. I can just ease into it. Wait, is that Sarah Brightman? It was pretty much what was going on. But no, this is, yeah, thank you so much. Before we go, please tell people where they can find your good work.
You can find our writings on actionaddictsnetwork.com. You can find the show on Instagram under @actionaddicts. You can find it on Blue Sky under the same name. And on Twitter, we are @addictsaction because somebody already had the other name. And obviously, if you want to just look up the podcast, it's The Action Addicts on Spotify, Apple, and everything except YouTube. And in fairness, we are on YouTube. It's just you'll only find like 4 or 5 episodes because I have to add them manually and I have to make videos for them. And there's over 100 episodes of the show, so it's a very slow process.
It is a very, yeah, I started doing that a little bit and then it was just like, no.
No.
Yeah. Of course, Shotgun or Reading Gig on either Blue Sky, Letterboxd, or Instagram. You can find Shotgun on all the pods. Please rate and review. And we will be back with another double feature. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.